Welcome back, dear friends, to another exciting episode of Exploring the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah. We are picking back up, dear friends, on paragraph 96 through 100 of the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah. And without any further ado, dear friends, we'll have our opening prayer. Thank you so much.
Inspired by your study. Blessed is the spot and the house, and the place and the city, and the heart and the mountain, and the refuge and the cave, and the valley and the land, and the sea and the island, and the meadow, where mention of God hath been made, and his praise glorified.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much, Miss Darla. All right. Something else, and I have made a rare treat for you guys. So once we finish the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah, okay, which will be so awesome, and I can't wait for, not to say to finish it, but I always love completing a study. It always makes me happy. I have a rare treat for you. As we are going through these institutions, and one of the institutions that we're have partly gone through and continuing to go through is the institution of the hands of the cause of God. Okay? And there are pub quiz. How many hands of the cause of God were appointed by Baha'u'llah?
Four.
Is that your final answer, dear Zamrui Jan?
I think so.
Anyone else?
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, I think it's 4.
3.
Don't second guess Zamruhi, John. She's usually right on these things. The answer that we know of currently, okay? And that is the correct answer, okay? That we know currently, okay? And why I say that is there are 4 members of the institution of the hands of the cause that were appointed by Baha'u'llah that we know of currently, okay? Because the beloved guardian wrote a letter saying that in the future, the research department will come out with others that had been appointed. It's just at this current time, these are the 4 that are known. So I have done a full study of those 4, okay? And this is an SON study, so I try to go all out, as they say, okay? So it's going to be pretty cool. And once we finish this, you will get to know these 4 first hands of the cause of God well, okay? And I want to do this for all 50, but there's other books that they've done quite well on. So I just wanted to do it on these 4, which there's pieces of information in different places, such as Revelation of Baha'u'llah and others, but I wanted to compile it so it gives you a really nice full picture on these 4. So it's a really nice presentation. Once we finish, you'll get to learn about these 4 hands of the cause very nicely. So that will be a treat for you guys as a bonus for completing the course, as they say. Okay, so let's get back into it, as they say. Yes, Riaz John, please, you have a hand. Don't forget to unmute. There you go.
Yes. Would these be the chosen ones that are mentioned, for example, in the tablet of visitation of Abdul-Baha? Towards the end, he speaks the loved ones and the chosen ones.
Oh, very good. That's a good question.
I ask because in other study groups, there is ambivalence, and doubt as to who are the chosen ones, or who would be, or. But anyway, since
I have thoughts on it, you know,
but later, I mean,
but I could put it. I'll put it in an email, Riaz John, okay? Because I don't want to take too much class time.
Yeah,
But I'll put it in an email, and if we have time at another part, we can get into it.
absolutely, yes, absolutely, yes.
In the gleanings, it's mentioned that every one of us has been chosen. It's not happenstance that you are a Baha'i. You know, even if you learned and taught yourself the Baha'i faith, it is probably through either your own deeds or your forefathers' deeds. Okay? So it's not coincidence. You have been chosen. You are chosen by Baha'u'llah. Do you understand? So we are chosen. That is another thing is, absolutely, chosen could also mean appointed. So it could be those appointed ones, the loved ones of Baha'u'llah. But every one of us has been chosen. We are the followers of Baha, and we have been chosen by him. So the reality is, are we living up to being chosen by him? That's another thing. So, but we'll get into it. I'll pull that extract from Gleaning so you can see that too, Riaz John, okay?
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, jumping back in, dear friends. Let me share my screen. So we were studying 2 weeks ago. I apologize. I was traveling for work and everything. Paragraphs 96 through 100, okay? Oh, my chubby fingers, I apologize. Okay, here we go. We're studying paragraph 96 through 100. And you feel like, Ehsan, what are we studying? This is my first class. We're studying the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah, okay? The Dispensation of Baha'u'llah, written in 1938, okay? It is a letter from the beloved guardian. It's his 6th letter of his in the world order of Baha'u'llah. And we are right now studying paragraph 96. Paragraph 96 through 100. 96 starts, it's a long one, starts on page 145 of the World Order of Baha'u'llah. It should be noted in this connection, right? It should be noted in this connection that this administrative order is fundamentally different from anything that any prophet has previously established. So this is what we're in the section, the administrative order. So this is what we're studying here, dear friends, the uniqueness, the significance of the Baha'i administrative order. So, dear friends, we're not going to reread paragraphs 96 through 100. I encourage every one of you to reread the paragraphs that we are going through. But tonight we're going to finish up this section and enter into our next paragraph set, which will be so exciting. I can't wait to present it to the class. So I'm going to read this paragraph. This is also from the beloved guardian. This is from an earlier letter. This is in the letter, the World Order of Baha'u'llah, okay? Further considerations, okay? So this is the 2nd letter of the beloved guardian, World Order of Baha'u'llah, I believe further considerations. It states, during the formative age, this force exerts its influence through the Baha'i administrative order and will continue to drive civilization towards its ultimate goal, the golden age of the cause when the kingdom of God is established on earth. If you recall in our last session, Riaz John emphasized the kingdom of God will be established on earth. This makes the Baha'i administration a vital element in the evolution of both the Baha'i faith and humanity on this planet. And in this regard, Shoghi Effendi explains, the spirit breathed by Baha'u'llah upon the world can never permeate and exercise an abiding influence upon mankind unless and until it incarnates itself in a visible order which would bear his name, wholly identify itself with his principles, and function in conformity with his laws. So there needs to be a visible order. This has to become into reality, incarnate itself in a visible order, namely the system, the Baha'i administrative order the word needs to become flesh. It needs to enter into a reality. The word, the creative word, the words of Baha'u'llah needs to enter into reality, which would bear his name. So you are, as an individual, need to be an exponent of his name, and the entire system of Baha'u'llah needs to come into reality. Wholly identify itself with its principles and function in conformity with its laws. Okay, so this was this extract, so powerful. I encourage you to read it, meditate upon it. Okay, we move on. This is in the very first letter, World Order of Baha'u'llah, the very first letter. The Baha'i administrative order is an essential part of the covenants of Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha. It is designed to maintain the unity of the Baha'i community and ensure its progress. The beloved guardian Shaykh Effendi emphasizes that to disassociate the administrative principles of the cause from the purely spiritual and humanitarian teachings would be tantamount to a mutilation of the body of the cause, a separation that can only result in the disintegration of its component parts and the extinction of the faith itself. So it's not possible. You cannot say, I agree with the spiritual teachings, but I'm not into that administration, or the practices or all of that. It doesn't work for me. What does the beloved guardian say? It would be tantamount to a mutilation of the body of the cause. The administrative principles go hand in hand with the spiritual. It's all tied organically and naturally together. You cannot disassociate them. To disassociate the administrative principles of the cause from the purely spiritual and humanitarian teachings would be tantamount to mutilation of the body of the cause. A separation that can only result in what? Disintegration of its component parts and the extinction of the faith itself. Cannot do this. Cannot just say, I only, say my prayers, or I believe in the spiritual components, but I don't do any of the administrative things. I don't go to feast. I don't go to this or that, or I don't participate in the administration of the Baha'i community or whatever. Tantamount to what? Mutilation of the body of the cause. Organic. It's all together. You cannot take and separate any component. As a Baha'i, it's an all or none thing. That's how it is. It is designed, this is what the Baha'i administration is, designed to maintain the unity of the Baha'i community and ensure its progress. My dear Riaz John, if you could kindly read this one for us.
Regarding its purpose, Shaykh Effendi states, these administrative activities, however harmoniously and efficiently conducted, are but means to an end, and should be regarded as direct instruments for the propagation of the Baha'i faith. Let us take heed lest in our great concern for the perfection of the administrative machinery of the cause, we lose sight of the divine purpose for which it has been created.
So all of these administrative activities, everything one of them, and we're going to be talking about all of these coming up. What is their purpose? The beloved guardian states, all of these administrative activities, harmoniously and efficiently conducted, they're just a purpose for a means to an end. And what is the means to an end? They are direct instruments for propagation of the Baha'i faith. Beloved guardian states, what is the purpose of firesides? What is the purpose of the institutions? They're all designed for instruments for the propagation of the Baha'i faith. Then the beloved guardian states, let us take heed, pay attention, heed, warning, lest in our great concern for the perfection of the administrative machinery of the cause, we lose sight of the divine purpose for which it has been created. So we may attach so much more to these things that we actually forget the purpose of why they were created. You see what the beloved guardian is saying? Pay attention, pay attention. He's saying, do not forget the purpose of these administrative activities, that they are meant for propagation of the Baha'i faith. Namely what? It begins with a T. Teaching, right? Teaching. That is the purpose of administrative activities. Often we may serve on institutions such as local spiritual assemblies, and the administrative activities begin with talk and end with talk, and we get lost in them. But the purpose of these administrative activities is meant for
Teaching.
Teaching. I love it, Miss Yuda. That is what the administration is, is supposed to be. So if we should focus on that, or what the beloved guardians warns, we should not lose sight of the divine purpose for which it has been created. Okay. Now moving to paragraphs 99 and 100. These are the last two in this set. In paragraphs 99 and 100, the beloved guardian Shaykh Effendi refers to this power, the power and majesty that the Baha'i administrative order, at present in its infancy, will manifest as the future all-embracing Baha'i Commonwealth. The revelation of Baha'u'llah has given birth to a new world order that is destined in centuries to come to guide and govern human life on this planet. This is known as the world order of Baha'u'llah. And the main goal of this order is the complete unity of the entire human race. As Baha'u'llah has promised, soon will the present day order be rolled up and a new one spread out in its stead. So this is in reference to the coming of the golden age, right? And it's so, if, many of you have had children or obviously seen a child. And if you have never, imagine if someone has never seen a child before, and you look at the child for the first time, you will not be impressed with a little baby child. It doesn't have all the skills. It doesn't have speaking abilities. It cannot move very much. It doesn't have much abilities. It just sits there and might suck its thumb and cry and, make a mess. So to look at a little baby child, it's not very impressive. But as a parent, we know that in that child lays the potential. We know that if guided, loved, nurtured, raised, that child will have the abilities and faculties to become something immensely great, right? And it's the same with this nascent, this young Baha'i community. It is just like that. And this is the Baha'i world community, and the Baha'u'llah is talking about that in the future, this Baha'i administrative order, at present, still in its infancy, just like a little child, when it reaches that maturation, it will manifest as the future all-embracing Baha'i world commonwealth. It will be so exciting. I don't believe it will be in my lifetime or many of your dear lifetimes, but we will all see it from, as they say, the Abha kingdom. And I can't wait to see it. It's going to be so exciting. The evolution of this occurring as the world, as they say, embraces the banner of Baha'u'llah. It will be so exciting. But this, it will be, as the revelation of Baha'u'llah has given birth to this new world order, it will be centuries to come and guide and govern human life. This is what Baha'u'llah has stated will come to be. Soon will the present day order be rolled up and a new one spread out in its stead. And this present day order is what? It is all the ideas, the ideologies, the religious ideologies, all of these will be rolled up and a new one spread out. And this new one spread out is the Baha'i administrative order. So this is in reference to paragraphs 99 and 100. And then this is an extract from page 324 in the World Order of Baha'u'llah. It's not in my, anyway, this might be paragraph 324. Oh, can't be paragraph. I have to look that up. Why it says 324. Anyway, it says, since its emergence, the vibrating energy of the World Order of Baha'u'llah has been destabilizing the foundations of human affairs. The world's equilibrium have been upset through the vibrating influence of this most great, this new world order. Mankind's ordered life hath been revolutionized through the agency of this unique, this wondrous system, the like of which mortal eyes have never witnessed. So what has been destabilized since the emergence of Baha'u'llah and the Blessed Bab? It's the foundation of human affairs. What humanity has been holding on to for so long. Their prejudicial thoughts, their ideas, their ideologies, the way even they thought the world was. And the reality is, the whole world hath been shaken to its core. And this is what has come by the force of two manifestations. The spiritual force that's been infused into this planet, this vibrating influence. Mankind's ordered life has been revolutionized by this unique, this wondrous system, namely the Baha'i administrative order, the like of which mortal eyes have never witnessed. All right. And my dear Miss Yuda, if you could read this one for us.
The most great peace, which is the ultimate outcome of the spiritual unity of all nations, will be achieved only through the ordinances enshrined in the world order of Baha'u'llah. In the writings of Shoghi Effendi, the Baha'i administration is referred to as the nucleus and pattern, bones and skeleton, and embryonic stage of the world order of Baha'u'llah. The current Baha'i administration will evolve and mature to become as the instrument by which the laws and teachings of Baha'u'llah will be applied.
Excellent. So the Baha'i administration is the bones and skeleton. I mean, look at the language the beloved guardian uses. And an anatomically description here. So if we have any medical type of knowledge, we understand bones and skeleton is the bare basics of human anatomy, right? And so what else is there other than bones and skeleton? We got muscles, right? We got, we got all the heart and blood and other organs, digestive organs. We got the brain, and we got all these other organs that are so essential for functioning. Now, what are all of those other functioning organs? And we're going to talk about these other organic evolutionary institutions that are going to be emerging in this process. And so, as we were talking about, the current Baha'i administration will evolve. This is, as they said, what is the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah? The Dispensation of Baha'u'llah is stating the fundamental verities of the Baha'i faith, right? Fundamental verities, the truths, the basic truths. And this, my dear friends, is a fundamental verity, that this faith is evolutionary. You cannot say, I know what the Baha'i faith is, okay? No one can say, I know what the Baha'i faith is, because even, if you, 25 years ago, you said, I know what the Baha'i faith is. And now 25 years later, you say, you would be like missing a lot of stuff, you see, because it's changed in the last 25 years. That's why you have to ever be involved. Riyaz Shah, please, hand.
We see something very somewhat difficult to grasp. The first two lines, the most great peace, which is the ultimate outcome of the spiritual unity of all nations. This is somewhat hard to digest, that it is it's a result of the spiritual unity, not basically the spiritual maturity and unity, not some by means of other mechanical treaties or agreements, political or economic agreements, but it's a result of the spiritual unity. This is very different than what we are used to. We are used to these treaties.
The lesser peace, dear Riyaz John, will be brought about by the treaties.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. But this is far greater. That's why it's called most great peace. And that's why it's a spiritual unity, which you can see the maturation of has been raised by the nations to reach such a level. So you're absolutely spot on, Riyaz Shah. Please carry on.
That was it. I mean, what I'm trying to say is, as Baha'is, we have to collectively rise to the level when we realize it is a spiritual achievement. It's not political or economic or technological. No, what's involved in this is a spiritual maturity.
Mm-hmm.
That's a higher level of achievement.
Absolutely. Good insight. Thank you so much. All right. And that was our last slide for paragraphs 96 through 100. Now we're entering into our next part. Any thoughts before we enter into our next part?
I want to highlight what spiritual unity means.
Mm-hmm.
The way I understand it, as you mentioned earlier, that we all become Baha'i by chosen to become a Baha'i, chosen by Baha'u'llah or appointed. But now this spiritual unity means to me We don't know Baha'u'llah, we don't know Abdul Baha and Shoghi Effendi and all of them, the Bab, but we are connected spiritually with them. And we are follow the directions and the laws and ordinance and everything. So that is what it means to be spiritual unity. As you start the journey, you become mature and develop from age to age, time to time. So that is what it means. When the world is come to be spiritually united, it is taking time through journey of teaching the Baha'is of activities, and everything should be on our shoulder to use our efforts, to bring this to be happen, like 9-year plan we have now in the present day. So that is what it means, spiritual unity and spiritual maturation. You cannot separate that. If you are not mature, you are not to be spiritual. So that it goes together. And there is no limit for that. It is keep going even in the next world.
Dear Tesfai, my favorite quote on when anyone talks about unity, what is unity? What is spiritual unity? My favorite quote is coming from His Holiness Abdul Baha. And it's in selections from the writings of Abdul Baha. And he says that we should be so unified that we should be like the soldiers in a regiment pressed together in serried lines. Okay? And this is a incredible quote. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie 300. It's, sure, it's violent, sure, it's, not historically accurate, whatever, but it's a great movie in the sense of showing a small regiment taking on a large army, okay? And it's 300 soldiers that were Spartans, and they were so well-trained, well knit together, and packed it together in such a tight formation that he took on an army of at least 20,000 Persians in the movie. And they held them back. And so this is just an example. The beloved guardian quotes this, but it's from Abdul Baha. It says the level of unity of the friends should be, they should be so well knit together, pressing together in serried lines, marching together. Are we? Or is one Baha'i really well, in the front, and then all the Baha'is are sitting back and just kind of watching, or are they all over the place? Or are we, when the House of Justice issues a letter, are we walking together, as they say, walking together, arm in arm, walking together this path of service, embracing the messages together? You follow what I'm saying? Or are we just kind of like all over the place? Are we in serried lines? If we had that level of spiritual unity, by God, we would be achieving incredible things. You see what I'm saying? You see, if the spiritual unity that Riaz John mentioned, the spiritual unity that the nations, if the nations had that spiritual unity, most great peace would come. We are, per se, the test tube, the litmus test for spiritual unity right now. We got to get it right down here first. Is spiritual unity possible, even in a small little litmus test, the Baha'i community? We're still not even there yet. We got to be more spiritually unified. When the house says something, we jump. We don't question. We don't start becoming, Western scholars and dissect it and digest it. And why is the house saying this? And what is the meaning of this? Or the house says jump. I'm not sure if I have to jump this high or this much, or, what are you doing, people? The house says do this, do it. It's not rocket science. They're saying have Ruhi classes. They're saying have children's classes. They're saying have devotionals. They're saying do this or do that. What are you doing? What are you doing? Do it. It's not rocket science. I mean, other countries in the world are far surpassing the United States with its resources. Shame, 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 1,000 shame with all of its freedoms this country has. And the saddest part of it is, the saddest part of all of it is if you read, dear friends, America and the Most Great Peace, which is also a world order of letter, I think it's the 5th one. And I'm going to pull up this letter for you guys. This quote coming from the beloved guardian, which is so powerful. This was written in 1923. I'm going to pull this extract because I studied America and the Most Great Peace because the Universal House of Justice said this is one of the letters that we should also master, America and the Most Great Peace. So I'm going to read this one line for all my dear class. This is what it says. It's the last, it's the second last paragraph. It's on page 94 if you have a world order of Baha'u'llah handy. Okay, so on page 94. Okay, it starts where I'm going to be reading. Okay, it says, will it be America? Okay, so now here the beloved guardian talking to America, right? Will it be America? Will it be this country? Will it be America? Will it be one of the countries of Europe who will arise to assume the leadership essential to the shaping of the destinies of this troubled age? Will America allow any of her sister communities in East or West to achieve such ascendancy as shall deprive her of that spiritual primacy with which she has been invested and which she has thus far so nobly retained? Will she not rather contribute by a still further revelation of those inherent powers that motivate her life to enhance the priceless heritage which the love and wisdom of a departed master have conferred upon her? With all these other incredible countries around the world, with their devoted and pure souls arising when the House of Justice issues a summoning, they jump. Why do we ponder and commiserate and are so slow? When we are the descendants of the dawnbreakers with incredible souls, stellar histories of this American Baha'i community, yet we are so slow to embrace at times the messages of our Supreme Body. So this is something, dear friends, that I encourage you in your 19-day feasts. I encourage you in your meetings to remind the friends, will it be somewhat another country if we do not arise? It is the beloved guardian wrote that, America Most Great Peace. Now, we're moving to our next section. This is super exciting. I love going to another part. We're going to the next section. This is going to be awesome. Okay, I never presented this to anyone. So this is my first time to present it. So tonight, we're going to be studying, this whole section is just paragraph 101. I've only done this one other time. And that was in Advent of Divine Justice. I did a whole part on paragraph 16. I did it again, okay? In Dispensation of Baha'u'llah, I did a whole part on paragraph 101. And you're like, wow, Esa, you done over 70 slides on just one part? Yes. And because this paragraph 101 has a lot in it, okay? And you'll see, I've broken it up and there's so much in it that it needed a fuller part, okay? So we're going to be also talking about the future development of the institutions and recent developments, the first glimmerings of the Baha'i administrative order, the houses of justice, institution of the hands, auxiliary board members, Continental Board of Counsellors. So let us read this incredible paragraph 101. Then we're going into our study. And we're doing pretty well with time. So let's start off. Paragraph 101. Okay. Our great Farzad Jan, is he with us? Excellent. Okay. So, dear Farzad Jan, if you could read this one for us.
Sure. Paragraph 101. In the tablets of Baha'u'llah, where the institutions of the international and local houses of justice are specifically designated and formally established, in the institution of the hands of the cause of God, which first Baha'u'llah and then Abdul Baha brought into being, in the institution of both local and national assemblies, which in their embryonic stage were already functioning in the days preceding Abdul Baha's ascension, in the authority with which the author of our faith and the center of his covenant have in their tablets chosen to confer upon them, in the institution of the local fund, which operated according to Abdul Baha's specific injunctions addressed to certain assemblies in Persia. In the verses of the Kitab al-Aqdas, the implications of which clearly anticipate the institution of the guardianship. In the explanation which Abdul Baha, in one of his tablets, has given to, and the emphasis he has placed upon the hereditary principle and the law of primogeniture as having been upheld by the prophets of the past. In these, we can discern the faint glimmerings and discover the earliest intimation of the nature of working of the administrative order, which the will of Abdul Baha was at a later time destined to proclaim and formally establish.
Thank you, dear Farzad Jan. Paragraph 101, right? In this paragraph, mentions the different institutions that have been brought into being at the point of writing this. And when was it written? Anyone? Someone's skipping ahead to the end of the letter, right?
I think 1938.
No, my dear Tesfaye, that's Advent of Divine Justice is 1938.
1934, right?
1934, right? 1934. So this is written in 1934 in February. So this was written in 1934. So these are the institutions that the beloved guardian is mentioning, the institutions of the international and local houses of justice brought about in the tablets of Baha'u'llah, designated and formally established. The institution of the hands of the gods of God, first mentioned by Baha'u'llah, and then Abdul Baha brought into being. And then the institution of both the local and national assemblies, which in their embryonic stage were already functioning in the days preceding Abdul Baha. So these institutions of local and national assemblies, they were already functioning even before Abdul Baha passed, right? In the authority of which the author of our faith and the center of his covenant have in their tablets chosen to confer upon them. In the institution of the local fund. Often we don't even think that the local fund is an institution, right? Wow. Another institution is the Hugullah, right? It's an institution. And so this is the institution of the local fund was also brought into being, operating according to Abdul Baha, specific injunctions addressed to certain assemblies in Persia. In the verses of the Kitab al-Aqdas, the implications of which clearly anticipate the institution of the guardianship. This is mentioned in the Kitab al-Aqdas. in the explanation which Abdul Baha in one of his tablets has given to, and the emphasis he's placed upon the hereditary principle. So it's hereditary. You cannot say, oh, this guy was the next guardian, but if he ain't hereditary, directly related, it ain't cutting it. That's why it's called the law of primogeniture. Okay, you got to be related. It's the Ahsan, the family of Baha'u'llah. You cannot just say, hey, the guardian chose me. No, what are you talking about? That it's right here. It's very clear. That's why it's called order. There's a system in place. Okay, so that is in the will and testament of Abdul Baha. It's very clear. There's an order has been placed. The law of primogeniture as having been upheld by the prophets of the past. And in these we can discern the faint glimmerings and discover the earliest intimation of the nature and working of the administrative order, which the will of Abdul Baha was at a later time destined to proclaim and formally establish. Awesome. Now let's get into it, okay? We got a bunch of institutions to cover, and it's going to be pretty cool. And we're also going to show how it ties to the recent developments. So checking our time, we got about 40 minutes. So let's get through it. So in this section of this letter, really is one paragraph, but I'm putting this as a section. The beloved guardian identifies the instances in the writings of Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha that give us these faint glimmers of this administrative order that will be established in the future through the will and testament of Abdul Baha. And in this section, we share an overview of the Baha'i administrative order. So this is just an overview, dear friends. So if you, per se, had no idea what this Baha'i administrative order is, this is going to be Baha'i Administrative Order 101, okay? So this will try to give you a snapshot. Okay, here we go. So this is the key points of this one paragraph. So the Baha'i Administrative Order, its power and authority is completely taken away from the individual and transferred to the councils elected by the community through secret ballot without any electioneering or candidature. Okay, this is an incredible concept that the power and authority is not with any individual. It is gone through to the elected bodies. Baha'u'llah ordained the establishment of these councils and named them houses of justice. And in the Kitab Ahdas and in a number of tablets revealed after the Kitab Ahdas, Baha'u'llah refers to two councils, the Universal House of Justice and the local houses of justice. Okay, so these are the two elected bodies mentioned by Baha'u'llah. And in his will and testament, His Holiness Abdul Baha introduced the secondary houses of justice and explicitly stated, in all countries, a secondary house of justice must be instituted. And this institution is currently called the National Spiritual Assembly. His Holiness Baha'u'llah established the institution of the Hands of the Cause of God during his lifetime. Pop quiz, how many Hands of the Cause of God were there?
50.
Did Miss Claudia say that? I saw her lips. Yes, Miss Claudia, bingo, you're right, Miss Claudia, 50. That we know of currently, okay? That's just like we have 50 states, and who knows, there might be more states in the future, but were 50 Hands of the Cause of God, and it's quite possible the research department may let us know about other Hands of the Cause of God appointed by Baha'u'llah in the future. So they are 50, okay? And in 1954, the beloved Guardian Shoaib Effendi established the institution of the auxiliary boards to provide the Hands of the Cause of God with adjuncts or deputies. So these are incredible souls appointed to assist the hands of the cause of God, okay? They were auxiliary boards. And in 1968, the Universal House of Justice established the institution of the Continental Board of Counsellors, since it was not authorized to appoint a new hand of the cause of God. So it was not possible to appoint any more hands of the cause of God. So this new institution came into being, namely the Continental Board of Counsellors. So now that is an incredible institution. We'll talk about that coming up too. So now, paragraph 101, okay? My dear Miss Claudia, if you could read this slide for us. Are you muted, my dear Miss Claudia? Oh, I see you're not muted. I just can't. I see your mouth moving, but can't hear you. Oh, unfortunate. Okay, we'll go to Miss Marianne. I apologize, Miss Claudia.
Okay. In paragraph 101, Shoghi Effendi identifies the instances in the writings of Baha'u'llah and Abdu'l-Baha that give us the faint glimmers of the administrative order that will be established in the future through the will and testament of Abdu'l-Baha. These references include the tablets of Baha'u'llah, where the institutions of the international and local houses of justice are specifically designated and formally established. The institution of the hands of the cause of God, which first Baha'u'llah and then Abdu'l-Baha brought into being.
The institution of both local and national assemblies, which in their embryonic stage were already functioning in the days preceding Abdu'l-Baha's ascension. The authority with which the author of our faith and the center of his covenant have in their tablets chosen to confer upon them. The institution of the local fund, which operated according to Abdu'l-Baha's specific injunctions addressed to certain assemblies in Persia. The verses of the Kitab Aqdas, the implications of which clearly anticipate the institution of the guardianship. The explanation which Abdu'l-Baha in one of his tablets has given to, and the emphasis he has placed upon, the hereditary principle and the law of primogeniture, as have been upheld by the prophets of the past. So let's get first into the houses of justice. And my dear friends, I encourage each one of you to study the Baha'i electoral process. Learn it, because you will see nothing like it. There's no comparison to it. And it's something so beautiful. When I was living in the great city of Houston, as they say, in my former life, I worked on the Baha'i the website for the Houston Baha'i community, and I was pulling articles and writing articles. And one of the articles that I wrote was on Baha'i elections. And the article I wrote was called "The Beauty of Baha'i Elections," because it is something so beautiful. And I encourage you to learn about how beautiful a system it is. If done right, as they say, it should be in a prayerful, without canvassing, without electioneering, as the beloved guardian says, searching and seeking for the person who would be, as they say, the most wise, the most honorable, all the qualities that we mention in the writings, right? if done in that spirit, it is such an incredible and beautiful process. And something I encourage you to learn and master is know about this Baha'i electoral process. So you can also educate your community prior to the elections, how it should be done. This is something, because we do it after elections, which is, we should be studying about how to do it before. So, how do we do these elections, right? Anyway, the structure of the Baha'i administration is absolutely unique and unprecedented in the history of religion. In previous dispensations, the authority and power of decision-making was left in the hands of the clergy and other religious leaders. Often these religious leaders were corrupted by ego, pride, and greed, and the clergy would often abuse their power. In the Baha'i administration, power and authority is completely removed from the individual and transferred to the councils elected by the community through secret ballot without any electioneering or candidature. So if someone says, I'm a member of the assembly, I have power or whatever, they missed the boat. There is no power. It is, the whole role is service. It's service, sacrifice. The institution of the spiritual assembly, that is an institution, okay? And that has, per se, the power and authority for the role of that jurisdiction. But individually, there is no power. There is no authority. This is something unique and unprecedented in the history of religion. Carrying on, subsequent to the provisions regarding the administrative order revealed in the Kitab Aqdas, the most holy book, His Holiness Baha'u'llah also revealed supplementary passages in a number of other tablets. His Holiness Baha'u'llah has ordained the establishment of the elected councils of his future administrative order and referred to them as houses of justice. The context of the statements made by Baha'u'llah clearly shows that he refers to two different entities, namely the Universal House of Justice and the local houses of justice, now known as local spiritual assemblies, right? And in the future, they'll be known as local houses of justice. And I assume at that point, it will be about maturation. When they have, so, right? We're not there yet. There's still a lot of squabbling and working to understand the principle of consultation in many spiritual assemblies. But I assume they will reach a point where the Universal House of Justice will, I actually think the National Spiritual Assemblies will be called Houses of Justice long before the local ones will. But when the local houses, when they go from local spiritual assemblies to local houses of justice, it will be an incredible day when that happens. And again, I will be up there watching, as they say, right? So this is it was a cool slide, a picture as they came across. It was a beautiful artistic rendering of the seat of the Universal House of Justice. It says the Universal House of Justice is the international governing council of the Baha'i faith. His Holiness Baha'u'llah ordained the creation of this institution in his book of laws, the Kitab Aqdas. The Universal House of Justice is a 9-member body elected every 5 years by the entire membership of all national Baha'i assemblies. Baha'u'llah conferred divine authority upon the Universal House of Justice to exert a positive influence on what? The welfare of humankind, promote education, peace and global prosperity, and safeguard human honor and the position of religion. So these are the different, per se, focuses that the Universal House of Justice is under his mandate. And you could find these much more expounded on in the Constitution of the Universal House of Justice, which you can find online. It's called the Constitution of the Universal House of Justice. And in that document, you could see exactly what the Universal House of Justice, per se, is focusing on. It's an interesting document. I encourage you to find it and read it. It's not that long. So, houses of justice. In the tablet of Ishraqat, this is one of the tablets revealed after the Kitab Ahdas, Ishraqat. Baha'u'llah states, this passage now written by the pen of glory is accounted as part of the most holy book. The men of God's house of justice have been charged with the affairs of the people. They, in truth, are the trustees of God among his servants and the day springs of authority in his countries. This is a reference to the Universal House of Justice. So they are the trustees of God. They have been charged with the affairs of the people. They are divinely protected. And here is a picture of the members of the first Universal House of Justice. They were elected 1963. They were elected in 1963, right? By the National Spiritual Assemblies at that point in time. So this was an incredible group of 9 members, a group of friends that served on that august body. And then the other one, right? Then some of us here has served on, and this is called the Local Spiritual Assembly. On the other hand, in the following statement from the Kitab Ahdas, Baha'u'llah ordains the establishment of the local houses of justice. The Lord hath ordained that in every city a house of justice be established, wherein shall gather counselors to the number of Baha. Baha is how much? Anyone? I see Miss Claudia's mouth, but I can't hear her beautiful voice. It's 9. She's saying 9. I can see the movement of her mouth. So that's right, Miss Claudia. I'll give you a thumbs up. The number 9. But Baha'u'llah states, should it exceed this number, it doth not matter. So when we have 10, well, it doesn't matter. Baha'u'llah says it ain't gonna matter. So, but if there's 11 on your spiritual assembly, Baha'u'llah says it doesn't matter. Okay, so. Okay, and that's probably to do with the requirements and needs of your community. For example, if you've got thousands and thousands of people, right? It's going to be a lot of work and strain on those 9 members, right? So that's why he's saying it says counselors shall gather to the number of Baha, and should exceed this number, it doth not matter. Okay, so and who knows, in the future maybe 19 members on our spiritual assemblies or more even. So the reality is, who knows, in these cities, for example, I live in a city, Houston, with millions of people. Say 10% of the city becomes Baha'i, of 2 million or so people. That will be a staggering Baha'i population, right? If that's the case, 9 people will be hard to handle that number of people. So you may have to have, a spiritual assembly of many more people, and how it will be run administratively, it will be very different in the future. You see how Baha'u'llah is thinking on this? So he's saying it does not matter. The word Baha in this statement has a numerical value based on the abjad numbering system. The local houses of justice are currently the local spiritual assemblies, okay? Local spiritual assemblies. So, some salient points. Let's get to let's get us down to it. Among the more salient objectives to be attained by the local spiritual assembly in its process of development to full maturity. So if you're like, hey, I'm serving on a spiritual assembly and I think we're doing pretty good, you know. Okay, if you're thinking you're doing pretty good, have you achieved all of these things? Okay, so these are the things that you got to have achieved to reach that point called local houses of justice. Okay, this is from the Universal House of Justice, a letter written in 1972. To act as a loving shepherd to the Baha'i flock, promote unity and concord among the friends, direct the teaching work, protect the cause of God, arrange for feasts, anniversaries, and regular meetings of the community, familiarize the Baha'is with its plans, invite the community to offer its recommendations, promote the welfare of youth and children, and participate as circumstances permit in humanitarian activities. Now, I want to make an interesting point here. So in the last 20 some odd years, an agency emerged called the Area Teaching Committee. And we're going to talk about these other things, right? Very important agency in the development of the regional training institute, agencies of the cluster. But something happened. Many spiritual assemblies thought that one is called Area Teaching Committee, and we should be coherent in our activities, right? So we should let them do the teaching work, you know, as spiritual assemblies, and, you know, because they're doing the teaching work, area teaching, right? So we'll do whatever they're doing and just follow along, right? No, that's not right. The spiritual assembly has a mandate given by Baha'u'llah, okay? And under its mandate is direct the teaching work. Direct the teaching work. If spiritual assemblies are to mature to become local houses of justice, they got to have their own plans of teaching in whatever jurisdiction they are. But all in line with the cluster. Okay? So if nothing changes, remember, this is an evolutionary faith. So the city, which is under the jurisdiction of the local spiritual assembly, has its own teaching plans. Okay? Every spiritual assembly has its own teaching plans, direct teaching work, direct the teaching work. So ideally, if you live in a city that has the capacities of having a teaching committee, you should have a teaching committee. And that committee should be orchestrating the teaching work. If you do not have a teaching committee, it should be under the local spiritual assembly because it's under the direct teaching work. So every spiritual assembly should have teaching plans, teaching guidance, and be focused on the teaching work. Not just going and, oh, okay, what's the area teaching committee say today? Okay, that's what we're going to go ahead and do. No. The teaching work is under the spiritual assembly, okay? Go read the compilation on the local spiritual assembly. If you think, yes, son, you're wrong on this, go read it. What does the compilation on the local spiritual assembly say? The spiritual assembly has been given the mandate for teaching the cause, right? It's right there. I'm not making these words up. This is from Baha'u'llah. Okay? So these are this is from the Supreme Body, Universal House of Justice, the requirements from progressing from local spiritual assemblies in this process of development to local houses of justice. Okay? And all these spiritual assemblies around the world are at different stages on this. Okay? And another one is promote welfare, youth, and children. This is another one that we kind of toss over to the agencies of the cluster. You know, oh, they're having their neighborhood children's classes. They got their junior youth thing going. Oh, you know, they got their things. What is the spiritual assembly doing itself to promote the activities, the education, the welfare for the youth and children. And it's not just, it's in all spheres. It's not just at Sunday school. It's at 19-day feast. Our 19-day feasts, just regular gatherings where everyone just sits around. You know, there's a wonderful long, chant in Persian at the opening, and after the beautiful chant, then it's, another devotional. And after the devotional, then it gets into some administrative portion that God knows is extremely tiring for many individuals. And after that, the consultation, and then social, and God knows where the children and junior youth have gone. We may have said, told a few children and junior youth to open with a prayer, but then they've gone off to play. Are the children, junior youth, and youth integrated in all spheres? I'm being truthful, and this is, per se, the class that I'm directing. So I'm going to be very straight up and honest. I hate, and I very rarely use this word hate, because it's a bad word to me. But I hate when Baha'is send their children away out of gatherings and send them to another room, and and they're not part of the gathering, whether it's feast, whether it's devotional, or whatever. Because I'm telling you, because you're literally taking them away from learning administration, because also you're saying this is an adult thing and the children go away. We don't have a place for you in our gathering. Why are we not adjusting our gatherings to be embracing of all ages? We don't think about it. Why don't we integrate them? When we talk about the fund, we talk about how wonderful it is. My children, I have a 1-year-old, I have a 5-year-old, and I have a 8-year-old. And when I talk about the fund to them, they're like, Daddy, I want to give to the fund. I want to do, when I go to the feast, I want to talk about the fund and I want to give money to the fund. But when they get to the time for the fund, it's as dry as a bone and there's nothing, and it's a dead thing. You see what I'm saying? But it's something as the community, if we think about it, how can we integrate them? And this is up to who? The spiritual assemblies. This is about maturation. And every one of us that are in the communities, we also need to think about integrating everyone into our gatherings. Every race should be integrated. Not every age group should be integrated. It should not just be a Persian thing. It should not just be, a young, old person thing. It should not just be, everyone should be integrated. Do you see what I'm saying? And loved and be part and parcel of this new Baha'i administrative order. You see what I'm saying? There should be no cliques. People just talking in one language, or people talking or doing anything. It should be so loving. You see what I'm saying? As a system that everyone feels welcome. Carrying on, among these more salient objectives, these are more focus of how can a spiritual assembly become that local house of justice? In its relationship to the individual believer, the assembly should continuously invite and encourage him. And continuously invite and encourage him to do what? Study the faith, deliver its glorious message, to live in accordance with its teachings, contribute freely and regularly to the fund, participate in community activities, and to seek refuge in the assembly for advice and help when needed. This is when you got a mature assembly. When your assembly is continually encouraging you to study and continuously encouraging you to teach the cause. When your spiritual assembly is encouraging you constantly, continuously, to contribute freely to and regularly to the fund and participate in events. His Holiness Abdul Baha provides more explicit explanation of the houses of justice in his will and testament. In addition, Abdul Baha introduces the secondary houses of justice. These are namely the national spiritual assemblies in this day. In all countries, the secondary house of justice must be instituted. And currently, this institution is called National Spiritual Assembly. And this is the quote from the Will and Testament. In all countries, the secondary house of justice must be instituted. And these secondary houses of justice must elect the members of the universal one. Okay, so now we're coming to the institution of the hands of the cause. Miss Luann, could you kindly read this slide for us?
Sure. Baha'u'llah established the institution of the hands of the cause of God during his lifetime. The members of this institution consisted of devoted, learned, and wise Baha'is who spent their lives serving the Baha'i faith. In order to prevent the challenges experienced in the previous dispensations, the hands of the cause were primarily responsible for the protection and expansion of the Baha'i faith without any authority over other institutions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know how many of you have had the privilege to study the four valleys of Baha'u'llah. It's an incredible text of Baha'u'llah. It's called the Four Valleys. And my dad, who's a scholar of the Four Valleys, gave me a snapshot of it. You know, my understanding of these mystical writings is still in the infancy, but my dad helped give me a better understanding of it. So I'm just going to give you a very brief glimpse of it for the purpose of we're talking about the hands. Okay, so that's why the first valley is very simply is the valley of materiality. Okay, that's how I will describe it. Okay, the valley of materiality. Okay, and the first valley, I'll just describe it like this. If someone was, if it said in the writings, go and circle the Kaaba, the holy place. And it says it's to go circumambulate the Kaaba, 19 times. That person goes on pilgrimage and goes and circles the Kaaba 19 times and then goes home. They take it as is, materiality. What it says, they do it. And that's it. Baha'u'llah says, that's great, that's wonderful, but there is more, okay? Now, Baha'u'llah says the next valley is the valley of the mind, the valley of, and he says there's more. So he says go, and he says if go into this next valley. He says enter into this valley. You will enter. He says if someone goes on the same journey, and Baha'u'llah says go and circle 19 times or whatever, they will also ask why. They will use this faculty of the mind. Why, my Lord? What is the reasoning? So it's not to question their Lord, but it's also to learn and understanding. Remember, there's a whole Baha'i month called questions. There's not a month called answers, but it's good to question. But not question in the sense, be offensive in your questions, but to learn, So it's to use the faculty of the mind. Baha'u'llah says, fantastic, you have progressed on your journey. Usage of the mind. But he says there is more. And so Baha'u'llah says, enter into the third valley. And the third valley is the valley of the heart. And so this is if Baha'u'llah says, come to pilgrimage with me. This is when he was in Akka. He says, come, oh my lovers, come to pilgrimage, right? And these lovers, they come on pilgrimage. They walk from Iran to all the way to Akka. Months and months journey by foot. Like the moths to the candle, right? And he's, pilgrimage is meant to, 9 days, these people, when they arrived, they couldn't leave, right? 9 months, they're still there. It's their heart is burning with love. You follow? Their entire atoms are infused with love. This is the valley of the lover. Now, if you're like Miss Luen, you're like, Ehsan, what could be more than a valley of the lover where you're consumed in love, you're burning in love, everything is a love, your all is love. What could be more than the valley of the lover, right? Wow. But there is more. Baha'u'llah says, fantastic. You have attained the valley of the lover. And these are many of them, the martyrs entered into the valley of the lover, right? Baha'u'llah says, fantastic. Now he says, now enter into the next valley. And what is that valley? It's the valley of the angels. In the valley of the angels, I'm paraphrasing even the titles of these valleys, but I'm giving you the terminology so that you understand the concepts, okay? In the valley of the angels is the valley where I describe it like this. In the valley of the lover the heart is so burning with love that you're attracted to the source, okay? That it's like the moth to the candle. But in the valley of the angel, imagine Baha'u'llah, the supreme magnet, right? The attractor of all hearts. But you are just this tiny filament of iron, this tiny dot in this cosmos. But what happens when that tiny filament of iron gets closer and closer and closer to the supreme magnet? It eventually pings against that magnet and it falls on the threshold of Baha'u'llah. But when you remove that little magnet and that little tiny piece of iron wants to go forth, that tiny piece of iron has become magnetized. It has become polar, all of it's polar. So if you go into that little piece of iron, it will pick up other pieces of iron because that little piece of iron has become magnetized. And this is called transformation. It is where Badi transformed in his character. It is where, when, for example, Louis Gregory, after meeting Abdul Baha, he became a champion steward of Baha'u'llah. You see the transformation. And that's why I'm talking about these souls that we're going to be talking about, the hands of the cause of God, were angels. They were angels. You follow? They had reached a station where they had become magnetized. They had reached that threshold, and anyone they talked to, approached, opened their mouth to, was like they were the voice in that sense. You see, they were so imbued, infused, and their voice had permeated through them that they had attracted anyone around them because they had reached that point. You follow? This is the station of the angels. So that I just wanted to give you a glimpse of, per se, the four valleys. They had reached that station, and they had been, as they say, my dear Riaz John, we're talking about chosen. These people were chosen and appointed by Baha'u'llah, Abdul Baha, and the beloved guardian. Okay, Baha'u'llah refers to the hands of the cause of God as the learned. So it's a different branch. It's not the branch that we talked about previously, namely the rulers. This is the learned. And in his book of the covenant, blessed are the rulers and the learned among the people of Baha. In reference to this statement, the beloved guardian defines the learned in this holy cycle. On the one hand, the hands of the cause of God, and on the other hand, the teachers and diffusers of his teachings, who do not rank as heads, but who have attained an eminent position in the teaching work. And as to the rulers, they refer to the members of the local, national, and international houses of justice. The duties of these souls will be determined in the future. And this is written in the Kitab Ahdas, in the notes section. So, all right. So these were the first four hands of the cause of God, okay? Appointed by Baha'u'llah. Okay, the first four. Mirza Muhammad Hassan, known as Adib. This is Adib right here. Mirza Ali Muhammad, Ibn Azdak, right here. Okay. Haji Ahund. He had a great sense of humor. Oh, I love this guy. You know, I encourage you to, we'll have a full study of these. This guy, Haji Ahud, I know it's so irreverent calling him this guy. Hand of the cause of God, Haji Ahud. He was such a great sense of humor. And most of all these souls, these incredible lights, because Baha'u'llah, His Holiness Abdul Baha went through so much suffering, these individuals, their greatest joy was to bring just a small smile to the countenance of Baha'u'llah. And Haji Ahud, that's what his greatest joy was to do. He had such a great sense of humor. So Haji Ahud would try to bring a sense of just a smile to the countenance of Baha'u'llah. Haji Ahud, great. We'll after the course of Dispensation of Baha'u'llah, I'll share more on Haji Ahud. Ibn Abhar. Oh, this is Ibn Abhar. Haji Mirza Mahabat Taqi. So, pub quiz. Who was the first hand? You got a 25% chance on this, okay? So, who was the first appointed hand of the cause of God?
To our knowledge?
No. Out of the four. Oh, obviously, it's to our knowledge.
No. It's Haji Ahund.
Is that your final answer, my dear Zamruhi Jan?
To my knowledge, yes.
To your knowledge.
Because two of them, we know they're... Oh, I don't know which one was... Never mind. I don't know who was appointed first. No, I don't know.
That's the question. Who was the first appointed hand of the cause of God? And actually, when I say first appointed, to the institution of the hands of the cause of God was created per se by that hand of the cause of God.
Okay.
So because he was the first. So does anyone know?
No, I don't know.
Any guesses?
I think it's written, the ages are there, so 1917.
The age is there, but
this is their births and their dates of passing.
Right.
The answer to the question is
Must be
Ibn
Aziz.
Azdak. Ibn Azdak. He was the first appointed hand, and the institution of the hands of the cause of God was brought into being. He's an incredible hand. And so we're going to, in our study on the four hands, the first four hands, you will be learning about that. Okay? So moving on, another incredible book, which I encourage you to read, is Memorials of the Faithful. Okay? If you do not have this in your bookshelf, pick it up. Okay? Order from your Bahá'í. We're at 8:32. So this will be our last slide. Okay? Memorials of the Faithful. If you do not have this, pick it up. And because this is an incredible book. This is Abdul Baha's own words describing these incredible souls during his lifetime that have passed away. And he is recounting in his own words the lives of these souls and their incredible services. Why I encourage you to read and study Memorials of the Faithful is because it gives you an image and connection to these souls, and it gives you that zeal, that fire to work on your own self, as they say. Work on your own self. These are other individuals that have worked on themselves. If you were living in the time of Abdul Baha, would you be in Memorials of the Faithful? You know, so you are now living in this day and age. Will the Universal House of Justice remember you in the Baha'i World volume? You know, will they issue an incredible tribute, you know, or not? You know, because the reality is, what are you doing to render his cause, proclaim his cause? So this is something I encourage. I want you guys to think about and what more you can do. Okay, so at this point, we're going to pause. We have so many more awesome slides we're going to save for next week. We're at 8:33. We try to stay as punctual but it's going to be super cool because we're going to tie it in this, because the word was evolutionary. And so we're going to show how this institutions have been evolutionary, and talking about, and also bringing it all the way to recent developments. So that will be for next week. So don't miss it, as they say. So any questions or thoughts on this session today? Very good. Very, very good. And it's, as always, it's a pleasure being with every one of you. I'm always learning and in your company. So without any further ado, we can have our closing prayer, and then we can all say good night. And but next week, don't miss it. It's going to be a great session. We're going to see how it all ties together. And it also, for me, adds certitude, in the current plans being unfolded and what the House of Justice is doing. And it gives you that certitude. And it should also give you energies to jump into anything and everything that the House is doing, because you see how it is all tied and connected. You see, follow? It's all part of this process. So that's what I want to share with you next week. It's very awesome. So closing prayer, dear friends. Zamruhijan has a hand, please.
Oh, my glorious Lord, help me to refrain from every irregular inclination, to subdue every rebellious passion, to purify the motives of my conduct, to conform myself to that meekness which no provocation can ruffle, to that patience which no affliction can overwhelm, to that integrity which no self-interest can shake, that I may be qualified to serve thee and to teach thy word.
Thank you, every one of you. Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Wishing you all.
Good night.
To my dear Doug, Shab Bakhair.
Thank you, so
Have a
John.
wonderful
Love
night,
you.
guys. Love you all.
Love
All right.
us.
Have a
Wonderful night.
wonderful
Love you,
night.
Aziza.
Allah.
Love you.
Allah.
Allah. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.